Thanks for joining and welcome to No Submission Needed, using AssetBundles as a fast content update system. My name is Sebastian Holzfeind and I'm working as a lead programmer at a small game studio based in Vienna called Mipumi Games. I will start with a definition of submission, asset bundle, and scriptable object. So we are all on the same page what I'm going to tell you about and what we want to achieve with this kind of solution. First of all I'm going to present today is only about mobile development. So the submission process for mobile development is submitting your game with the store description and everything else to a platform. Your submitted material will undergo a review process, and if this review process is successful, you can make your game publicly available for the store you submitted the game for, or for the platform you submitted the game. One problem of submissions are the review times. They differ from platform holder to platform holder, and while it's a few hours to 1 day on Android, and I was told it's about 1 week for Windows, it's currently about 10 working days for iOS. So in the worst case scenario, you're going to lose the flexibility to do any kind of updates or bug fixes in this time frame for new features or outro a new version. You can differentiate between initial, update, and resubmission. I will focus on update submissions today because this is the kind of submissions the asset bundle workflow can really shine. Asset bundles have been a Unity Pro feature in Unity 4 and are now free as Unity 5 came up. You can store prefabs, graphics, and audio assets in an asset bundle. Asset bundles had to be defined via code in Unity 4. In Unity 5, this changed, and I'm going to present to you or tell you what changed later in the presentation. The content of the asset bundle has to be defined by code, as I said, and asset bundles do have some specifics. One of them is that you have one bundle per platform. I do not mean that you have only one bundle for each platform, but you need to build every asset bundle you have in your project for every platform you're releasing. So you will have iOS, Android, PC, or every other platform you are releasing on. One bundle for it then. Another specific is really important, and that's no code changes. As long as you are not doing any code changes to the assembly you submitted to the store, you can change your asset bundles. You can change the content, and the application, the game you submitted for, will be able to load this asset bundle into memory, and you can change or do stuff with this asset bundle and the content contained in the asset bundle. What do I mean with no code changes, or what is allowed and what is not allowed? The easiest way to put it is allowed to do any code changes or to do no code changes at all. So do not add code, do not modify code. Everything which has been in your project during the time of your submission can be in there and can be used. So if you want to do something new which hasn't been in your application before, or hasn't been activated in your application before, you can use the code which has been there, but you can't change the code. Oh, thanks for joining. And the last definition I'm going to do today is scriptable object. A scriptable object is a Unity feature as well, and you do not need them to work with asset bundles. In Unity 4, it was convenient to work with them as a kind of editor extension for asset bundles, because scriptable objects are assets by itself defined via code. Think about them like mono behaviors stored as a file itself and not on a game object, but not on a prefab, stored in the project folder. You can modify these assets, and you can define them via code, as usual with public exposure of the members in the inspector, or changing their members in the inspector. The system I want to tell you today about has been used for Anno Build an Empire, Mipumi Games, and Bluebird Ubisoft's latest city builder, which is from the series of Ubisoft's city builder, or Ubisoft's latest installment of the city builder series, Anno. It's a typical free-to-play city builder and has been released for iPad, iPhone, Android tablet, and Android phone. From a technical perspective, in Anno, we do have different UI sets and different graphics, depending on the hardware you're running for. So SD and HD graphic sets, and as you can see, it's 2D. SD and HD graphic sets different UI schemes and layouts depending on the screen resolution and others. Sorry. As typical or as usual for a free-to-play game, Anno Build an Empire has seasonal events. And seasonal events is one kind of the update where you can really use your asset bundles to get some really cool stuff out of it. Because a seasonal event is typically selected on a specific date, and you would have to do your submissions all before that date for all the platforms, keeping in mind the different review times. For the Valentine's Day event this year, we added new local texts, fixed some local bugs because bugs always happen, as we heard today in the keynote, added a new quest giver as an NPC with his 2D picture, a 3D module of that one with his animations, did a more or less complete reskin of the UI and a more or less complete reskin of game assets or game graphics. All of this has been done without the need of a submission, or update submission in this case, and all of this has been done without the need of any programmer. So what did our content creators do? If you start on Anno Build an Empire, it looks like this typically. You have the splash screen with some parallax layers and, yes, a nice ship scenery. During the Valentine's Day event, it looked like this one. More floral look, even a little particle effect has been added. I'm not sure if you can see it on the slides really good, what these pink dots are leaves which has been added by our content creator to see what happened, or to see if this is working out as well in the asset bundle, and in fact it does, because particle effects are a Unity feature, and so they have been in there as well. For the island, the typical view looks like this one. This is a more maybe 2 or 3 days settlement. They get larger in the time being played. And as I told you before, on the left side, there are these avatar images, these quest giver pictures, which we changed during the Valentine event. So on Valentine's Day, all platforms, Android and iOS, looked like this one. It's February, so we do have still a little bit of snow on our island, and the whole UI color scheme changed from the typical tones to more pinkish tones. As I said before, everything of this has been done without the need of an update submission, and everything of this has been done without the need of any coder or programmer. So our programming department could focus in the time while our content department worked on this feature, on new features for a next release. How does this work? Well, we call this system style system. With the style system, we can change the appearance and add assets and content to our application at any given time. All assets from graphics, audio, prefabs are in an asset bundle. All of these assets do have a style, because we call it style system, so somewhere the name must fit. Every one of these assets we want to have in an asset bundle or user style do need to have an asset description. An asset description is a scriptable object. As a reminder, a scriptable object is an asset itself, and the values are set via inspector and are stored in the project. Our scriptable object asset description features a few members. One are iPad, iPhone, Android tablet, Android phone, distinguishing on which platform this asset should be used and for which platform asset bundle this asset is going to be built. And we do have PC for debugging and testing. We do have a lookup and aliases. So what we do with that one is, in our code base, not every asset does have another name than the file itself. So if our content creators are generating a UI screen for HD or SD resolution, they are doing a post or prefix on that asset. The code or gameplay code won't need these SD and HD resolutions, because otherwise we would need to have code for more and more different platforms. What we do is we have these lookup and aliases, more or less stripping all the post and prefixes, and as well keeping track of the different namespaces or usages, because for a content creator it might be more feasible to have different names than from the gameplay or for the content designers. We do have the scale factor up there, which distinguishes if we need the asset bundle for SD, HD, non-retina, or retina devices. And we do have a reading direction in there. A reading direction might not be the one conventional, or it might be a little bit odd, but we do have our whole UI system in the asset bundles as well, or the prefabs. And if they are text-heavy, we can distinguish between left and right, right to left, or other reading directions, because you will want to build your UI system another way up if you are having not the reading direction you are developing for, or you are using at the moment. And of course, the reference to the asset itself. Each of these asset descriptions can be in one or many asset bundle descriptions. An asset bundle description is a scriptable object by itself, and with the asset bundle description, we generate the asset bundle which can be downloaded afterwards. Our asset bundle description has the possibility to know which version the asset bundle is in there. Asset bundles can be downloaded from a server or can be deployed with your game as a streaming asset. If you download them from a server, you can download them and cache them on the device with a given version. This system allows you to do the versioning automatically and check if one of the assets changed during the build, since the last build of the asset bundle, and so you do not have to keep track of the version. This has been done with Unity 4. In Unity 5, there are other ways to do this, and I will show them to you a little bit later. Checksums and CRCs are for, as I said, for the versioning checking, but also for checks if the downloaded asset or the bundle we downloaded is the bundle we wanted to download and has not been modified on the server or during the download process. Because if you download an asset bundle which has the wrong version or is some kind of corrupt for your currently deployed game, Unity won't be able to load it. And if you do have this one on your cache, you might get a little bit of pain because it's hard to get to know if to get rid of that bundle. So the versioning is checked and the checksums. Unity has a specialty for GUI scene or for scene bundles, not GUI bundles, sorry. We are using GUIs, all our scenes are more or less GUI scenes, so it's for me more or less native now to say GUI scene. Because you only can do one scene per bundle in Unity 4, and so we needed to have the way to know that this bundle is going to be a scene bundle. So therefore, this bool with include GUI and as well the CRCs are in there. So our content creators, when building a scene, generate the asset description, drag and drop this asset description in an asset bundle description, and then have to check the mark that this one is a scene bundle. And of course, the references to the asset description, in this case, asset bundle description entries, because we do a little bit more of checking and storing difference, and storing checks for the asset bundle creation. As an example, the icons bundle. When generating the icons bundle or during the build process, our asset bundle description generates two different files. One of them is the Unity 3D asset bundle by itself, with the postfix of iOS or the platform you're currently building for. And the other one is an XML file, as well with the postfix, because they can differ between the different platforms. The XML file we built because we need to know what is in an asset bundle without downloading and loading it into memory, as well as all these lookup routines. Because in Unity you can't, or in Unity 4 it wasn't possible, to know what is in an asset bundle without downloading and loading it into memory first. So what we did is we're building an XML file out of the information we get from the asset bundle description, containing all the lookup names and names for the content which is packed in that one bundle, as well as the version number, because when we want to download the asset bundle, we know if we do have it in the cache or not, and the checks if the asset bundle has been modified. Okay, how it works. In the beginning of our game, or every time the game starts, the client on the device connects to a server component and downloads a list of all available XML files for the given platform, because the client tells the server on which platform he's running, he or she. This list is then loaded all the information with the lookup names and assets into an asset database during runtime for our app, where we have the information for this lookup name or these aliases. You have to download this asset bundle with that version and get the content from the asset bundle with the content or file's name. After this, the client downloads a list of all asset bundles which should be loaded into memory at startup. So we do have all the lists, all the XML files of all available asset bundles at the time being, and now we download a small set of asset bundles. We can download the asset bundles at every given time, but for the first loading screen, we wanted to have more or less all mandatory assets in there, because we do not want to get any kind of loading screen after loading screen fiasco for the player. If the player has this first set of asset bundles, or if the client after the client downloaded the first set of the asset bundles and has them in the memory, the player should not get any loading screen at all, because then we can do some kind of streaming. This system allows for a really dynamic environment, because all your content is in an asset bundle, and what content is loaded for your game at the given time comes from the server component. So you know what assets are there and which to download. All you have to keep in mind is that these assets have to be with the correct naming. So you can change the appearance and add content to the game, as you have seen for the Valentine's Day event. So the requirements to do such a system are not many. First of all, you need to be able to download the assets bundles during startup. So you need some kind of client-server communication where you get the information of which asset bundles are available and what is in them. What is in them. And you need the possibility to upload and download the asset bundles itself. Keep in mind, you need one asset bundle per platform. So if you're building for iOS and Android, there are more asset bundles there than and for one asset. In our case, we do have one asset bundle for the icons, for the GUIs, or one asset bundle for icons, one asset bundle for GUIs, one for quest givers, and so on. And this for every and each platform. We even distinguish between SD and HD resolutions and reading directions and other stuff. So we are about to 20 asset bundles per asset. So it's a lot of storage you have to have. It's not that big of an issue for the users, because they are only downloading the assets they need. So we are using a CDN for that one as well. Unity 5 did some changes, as I said. First of all, the interface changed, and you are now able to set up the asset bundle content in the editor and not via script. Or you can do it still via script, but you can do it with the editor as well. So the scriptable object thing we did might not be needed anymore. Unity 5 also keeps track of the version of the asset bundle, because they know which changes happened. And Unity 5 builds a manifest file for every asset bundle. So that's more or less what we did with the XML files, but we had the possibility to get these checks also in there and the lookup names. For the lookup names, Unity 5 has some kind of feature which is called variances, where you can get some kind of that with the post and prefix stripping I told you about, but we used it in a more deeper way, because we had all this server-side information as well in them. Yeah. Developing and using such a system always gives you some lessons learned. First of all, the system works as we expected it, so we can do stuff like the Valentine's Day event you've seen. As long as you keep in mind that you are not allowed to do any code changes to the assembly, you can download these asset bundles and load them into your memory and work with them. If you do any code changes, you have to do an update submission, because the system and what Unity gives us is not here to bypass the process of submissions for new features. It's just there to bypass some kinds of information if you do changes to your content. Of course, it's not always good, and there are some buts. One of them is, if you're using asset bundles, debugging and testing is going to be a lot harder, because you need to have all your asset bundles out every time for the platform you're currently testing, and that's going to take a lot of time for you. What we did is we used the scriptable objects and did make a small API, so that if we are loading from the asset bundle or from the scriptable object, does not matter for us for debugging and testing. If you are doing something like this, you have to be really strict that you are not going to release this version of your application with the scriptable object solution inside, because otherwise your asset bundles won't be loaded anymore and the application size would get really huge. Because it's a nice feature of asset bundles, if you're putting all your assets into one asset bundle, the app size will shrink down to a minimum, and the first initial download from the store will be rather small. And there is another but, and that one we did not keep track of, or we were a little bit surprised of. Because no submission also means that there is no store update. And the marketing team will hate you for that. Because no store update means you can't do any store description changes, you can't do screenshot updates or everything else. And on the store, you won't get any kind of feature like new games updated or stuff like that, because you're not doing an update. You do it, but they do not know it. And even if you do it that way, your users might not even recognize that there are now new features or there is new content in your game, because they are not informed automatically by the store. You can fix that one with push notifications or badge icon raising, but I'm not sure how many people really out there do have this one turned up in the notification center, because otherwise, well, I'm turning it off if I can. Okay. Thank you for your attention, and if you have any questions about the system, feel free to ask me now, contact me later, or find me later in Amsterdam. Thanks.
Thank you very much for your presentation. My name is Stepan from Ravensburger Digital, Munich. My question is, when you download the AssetBundles, and imagine you have an exotic situation in one of your scenes, where you only need, let's say, this one tiny icon from AssetBundle number 1, whereas the bundle itself is quite huge. And then you need another little icon from the AssetBundle number 2. Do you, when you download AssetBundles, do you save them as resources separately so that you have this fine-grained access to them? Or do you then have to download the actual two massive bundles?
First of all, we do have all our AssetBundles on the cache, on the device's cache, and we load them from the device's cache. We know what is in one asset bundle by the XML files, or now via the manifest file, hopefully. And what we can do with our system is change only one asset for the whole package, because we know what asset is in what bundle. So what we do is we have both of these asset bundles on the device, so we do not need to download it. And we keep track as smart pointers for the asset bundles we are currently using. So if we know there are more assets we need from one asset, we keep the asset bundle itself in memory. Does this answer your question?
So practically the solution is you don't split them to fine-grained resources and resave. Well, it's just smarter packaging of bundles. But
we do one kind is the smart packaging of the bundles, because we do know what assets are needed at one time during the gameplay, and we do package them as well depending on the usage of the assets. So our 2D assets we do have a lot of sprite atlas packing and stuff like that, and so we know where what is to find. And we do not have really many scenes in one asset. We do have a lot of asset bundles by itself. So we are loading all the icons are one asset bundle because it's easier for us, and we always need all the icons in memory. But if we know we only need this one specific out of that one and that one, those two would probably be asset bundles by itself.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
In the scriptable object that describes the assets, there's a version number, I thought.
Which one? The asset bundle description?
Yes, here. The asset bundle has a version number. How do you determine the version number? Is that manually, or do you have some automatic system that...
we do have an automatic system with checking what changed since the last build, and we're starting with version 0, and then increasing the number automatically before we push out the XML file. Because there is no asset, the version of the asset bundle is not in the asset bundle by itself, but during the download, and so in our XML file.
not very far. Hello. Do you handle asset unloading for temporary events, or do you just don't care when the event is over, so they pile up?
Being honest, it's part. First of all, we do not really care for the asset bundles on the device's cache. So these will stay there because sometimes we will reuse them for the next event. And Unity is keeping track, and there is keeping track of the cache as well. So if it's not there anymore, we will download it again. For the memory side, we know when we start an event or stop an event, and our server client solution has the possibility to tell the users or the clients to restart and then download again, or tell the client, the user that he needs or she needs to restart, because we can't stop the application, or we won't stop the application. And so we know, so the asset bundles will stay on the device as long as it's used and as long as Unity keeps them there. But in memory, it's only before the session you're playing. And if the event is over, we will force you to reload the session.
Okay, thank you.
Hi. So did you have any problems with memory, the size of the app on the device? Because all of that old bundles that you're not using at the moment are in the cache.
The size on the device is going to get larger over the time. And honestly, I haven't looked at it into detail yet, how big they are now for our users. And if it is going to be an issue, we will hopefully find a solution. But we haven't had a look into that one yet.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
I came across a problem with file sizes as well. Mine is, I need to bundle with the assets, light maps. How do you keep your file size down while submitting the assets?
Well, we do have all our assets in the asset bundle. So all the content is not in the binary, but it's in the asset bundle. And what we do is we are delivering the first set of the asset bundles for the time being on the submission as streaming assets with us, because we are possible to have the size, and we know for the submitted version, if we're doing a submit, all our asset bundles will automatically increase for one number. So we know which one was the version of all our assets will have the same version for the submitted version. Asset bundle version to the version of the app by itself. This can be a little bit tricky. And so we know, and we have settled in that when starting the game, we know what kind of version for every asset bundle is streamed from the disk and what is not as a streaming asset bundle in there. And so we're keeping track of that one. Does this help you?
Yeah.
Hopefully.
How do you deal with people downloading stuff over the Wi-Fi where that's not on the Wi-Fi, and if people are not keen to download our data and quit the app when they see that it's downloading stuff, do you have data points on how many people do that, or?
I'm not sure if we have data points, and if we do have, or if we have, that I might be allowed to share, being honest. But we started with tablet and Wi-Fi only in mind, and now switched for a few months ago to support for mobile usage and mobile downloading as well. And as far as I know, it's not that much, because the app size itself has been raised to the minimum that it does not be able to be downloaded via mobile. So we need to have the first download with Wi-Fi, and then the first download of all the asset bundles with Wi-Fi.
Okay, but if somebody downloads a game and then leaves home, for example.
Well, there is no. The first download time is rather small, because you're just downloading the game,
yeah.
And all our asset bundles for the first time being playing are submitted with the application as streaming asset bundles. That's what I meant with we do know the version of all our asset bundles at the time of the submission process.
Okay, so you can play after installing without having to update.
Yeah, you do not need to. After the first run won't download any asset bundles or just if you're unlucky, they will download the event asset bundles, but not the whole set of the asset bundles. Yeah. Thanks a lot. If you have any more questions, feel free to ask me later at the speaker's reception.